Hey friends, today I wanted to share with you a very simple method for watercolor. Two simple methods are wet on wet and wet on dry. So I just wanted to demonstrate how easy both methods are and encourage you to try both and see which one you like, because often art is not just about what you're supposed to do, but what you enjoy doing. So wet on wet, as you can see, I sprayed the wet square with water, and then I'm taking my wet watercolor and tapping it into the square. This method gives a much more fluid, kind of almost messy look. You can't really always control where the watercolor goes. I am tapping with a little paper towel or paper tissue here and there, which will absorb the color and normally gets it off pretty easily if you make a little bit of a mess. And yeah, I personally prefer wet on wet because it's just so pretty and fluid, and I like that it might go somewhere I don't want it to go because I feel like it kind of has a life of its own. And obviously there are ways of controlling the wet on wet. I mean, I could let this dry and then go back over it with new color if I wanted, but here I'm just going back over it with more wet watercolor, so just kind of showing you how loose it can be. Next, I am doing wet on dry, so taking my wet watercolor and just brushing it into the wet on dry square. This is much more controlled. It's not as messy or abstract. It's just more of the simple color going into the square. I am tapping some of that purple in there just to show you what that would look like as well. But as you can see, they're both very different, and they're both beautiful, but just very different. Next, at the bottom, I'm going to show you just a couple of ways that I tend to do watercolor. The first one is really stippling, so just lightly tapping your brush with that color in the area you want the color to go in. Next is just straight painting, just back and forth. We've all done that. And next, I don't know if this really has a name, but I would just call it kind of swishing my brush around, which I use all of these methods. I tend to probably go with swishing my brush and then doing the stippling. But overall, hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to see what you try and what your favorite is.